Realism is a dominant theory in international relations. It offers a stark perspective on how states behave. Realists believe the world lacks a central authority. This makes it anarchic. States are the key actors, driven by self-interest. Their primary goal is survival. To achieve this, they seek to maximize power. Power, for realists, is multifaceted. It encompasses military strength and economic prowess. It also includes political influence. States are constantly competing for power. They do this to deter aggression and protect their interests. Cooperation between states is possible. However, it is always fragile. Trust is scarce in the realist world. States are wary of being exploited. They prioritize relative gains over absolute gains. This means they are more concerned with how much power they gain compared to others. They are less concerned with overall benefits. Realism provides a lens through which to understand the actions of states. The Trump administration's approach to Ukraine has been controversial. One key event was the UN vote condemning Russia's actions in Ukraine. The Trump administration broke with precedent. It voted against the resolution. This aligned the US with Russia and a handful of other states. Another contentious move was the proposal for conditional military aid to Ukraine. The administration suggested linking aid to Ukraine's willingness to negotiate with Russia. Aid would increase if Russia refused negotiations. It would decrease if Ukraine refused. This approach aimed to expedite conflict resolution. It also sought to minimize US involvement. Perhaps the most scrutinized event was the Oval Office incident involving President Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky. Leaked reports suggested Trump pressured Zelensky. He wanted Zelensky to make peace concessions. This resulted in a heated discussion in full view of the press. In return, Trump allegedly hinted at a quid pro quo involving US aid and compensation for this aid. This incident reflected a departure from the approach of the Biden administration. It fueled active discussion about the approach of the US to the war in Ukraine. The Trump administration's actions towards Ukraine can be viewed through a realist lens. Realists argue that states act in their own national interest. For the US, this means ensuring its security and prosperity. The decision to vote against the UN resolution condemning Russia can be seen as a strategic move. The US likely calculated that alienating Russia would yield few benefits. It could also harm US interests elsewhere. Similarly, the proposal for conditional military aid reflects a realist desire to avoid entanglement in protracted conflicts. By encouraging negotiations, the US aimed to limit its own costs and risks. The Oval Office incident, while controversial, also aligns with realist principles. Realists argue that states are primarily concerned with relative gains. Trump's alleged pressure on Zelensky can be interpreted as an attempt to extract concessions from Ukraine. The Trump administration's Ukraine policy has faced sharp criticism. Critics argue that it emboldens Russia. They contend it undermines US credibility and weakens alliances. They also express concern that it erodes the international rules-based order. Realists offer counter-arguments to these criticisms. They argue that the US must be pragmatic in its foreign policy. Blindly supporting allies even when it harms US interests is not sustainable. Realists also question the effectiveness of the international rules-based order. They believe it is often ignored when it conflicts with the interests of powerful states. In conclusion, the Trump administration's approach to Ukraine reflects a realist worldview. It prioritizes US national interests above abstract principles or the interests of other states. While this approach has drawn criticism, it is consistent with a long tradition of realist thought in international relations. Whether such an approach will ultimately prove successful remains to be seen.